Welcome to Off Topic with Mike and JD. I'm still JD.
And I'm still Mike.
And welcome to the show. So today we're going to talk Zack Snyder's Justice League, or as everybody actually refers it, the Snyder Cut. And I can already hear the people typing in the comments, restore the Snyderverse.
Yeah, just when you thought it was all over, it's still going.
Alright. So, before we get into the actual film, just very briefly, we want to just get into a little backstory. So, the DCEU, what do you, of all the films leading up to the original Justice League, what's like your general opinion of them, and Mike?
Well, I genuinely enjoyed Man of Steel. I like that a lot. I'm not just full disclosure, I'm not like a huge DC fan. I was more of, a Spider-Man and Marvel fan growing up. But I mean, I do like the characters of Superman and Batman, and I did watch the old Justice League cartoon. So I enjoyed Man of Steel for what it was. I really liked the effects. I really liked the themes. I thought Man of Steel was really good. Batman v Superman, I don't know. I thought it had some good ideas, but I was overall disappointed. I think I did a weekend with my sister and saw it back to back with Civil War, so maybe that was like an unfair comparison. But yeah, I thought it was okay. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And then, Justice League was just rough. I skipped Wonder Woman. Actually, Wonder Woman is my favorite of the pre-Justice League DCEU movies. I thought that one was just a straight-up good movie. I enjoy all of that movie.
So, in my opinion, Man of Steel was mediocre. It was a weak starting point, in my opinion, but it could, like, it wasn't dead on arrival. You could have gone somewhere with it. Then Batman vs Superman, just so many problems. We could do a whole separate podcast with me just ranting how many problems there was, but did not like it. Wonder Woman was good. No complaints. I mean, I think some people over-exaggerate exactly how good it is. Like, it's a perfect movie. I'm like, people will say, it should get nominated for the Oscar. I'm like, it was a good movie. Was not that good. But it's still a good movie overall. And then, like you said, then there's also Disaster Suicide Squad, which, but then also the disaster of the original Justice League. Very few people liked it. I mean, it was pretty disastrous.
You're right.
And then now,
Suicide Squad was so forgettable that I forgot about it.
Yeah, Suicide Squad is terrible, but original Justice League terrible. And now the original Justice League was not Zack Snyder's fault, but my opinion, I didn't like the direction he had brought the movies in to start with, and I felt I personally just don't like Zack Snyder because I find him to be a very arrogant person. Like when people don't like his movies, he's like, you just don't understand them. He's very bad at accepting criticism. Like, a fan complained about Batman using a gun. Valid complaints. Now, instead of justify by like in a normal way, he attacked. Maybe you'll learn how the real world works when you move out of your mom's basement. Said something along those lines, and it's just like, no, like that's a valid complaint from fans of the series. You can't just dismiss it like that. Like, I'm not saying you can't give a gun to Batman, but you gotta expect there's gonna be blowback to it, and you gotta be ready to deal with that criticism.
Right. I mean,
in a professional way.
Right. I think it was
like how a little kid would.
You're right. In the same way, a lot of fans pushed back against Superman killing someone in Man of Steel. I mean, I don't think that was like a inherently wrong choice as a filmmaker, but you have to support that with the actual films you make.
Well, I see someone pointed this out online, and I agree with it. Him killing someone the problem was, this is the first time we saw this version of Superman. It would be a much bigger deal if this was an established Superman. Like it was like, oh wow, he had to do something to show against who he is. Like, that would be interesting to explore. But this guy was a new character, so seeing him do that, it didn't have that impact. The whole impact of it was based on us already knowing who Superman is, which is kind of a weak thing to do as a filmmaker.
See, I could have seen it the other way of, like, alright, he was kind of raised to be non-violent, and, like, then he had to kill someone, and this is, like, basically how he felt after killing somebody was what caused him to have the no-killing rule, as opposed to the other way around.
Which, okay, see, that could have worked if they established that better in Batman vs Superman, but they don't really. It's like, I can see what you're saying. That's what made him into Superman. That wasn't against being Superman. I get exactly what you're saying, but they didn't really do that. Like, they didn't follow up on it in that direction.
Right. I mean, I definitely agree with a lot of people who said it would have been nice to have a Man of Steel 2. Like, I feel like Batman takes up all the oxygen in Batman vs. Superman, because you're introducing, like, a new Batman, but also a Batman that's already past his prime, and then you're also trying to continue the story of Superman, and it's just a lot to do, even without bringing in the Death of Superman stuff. So, yeah, I feel like if we
tried to do way too much in Batman vs Superman.
If we had gotten a true Man of Steel 2, and maybe a standalone Batman, and then had Batman vs Superman, I think maybe a lot of these issues could have been mitigated. But
well, that's one of the big problems. DC rushed its film universe. They were trying to catch up to Marvel. They rushed up. They rushed their film universe very much. Like, they didn't do the proper build up to it, and that is very clear in the movies. That you're trying to set up all these spin-offs in this one film.
Yeah, and we see this too with movies like Amazing Spider-Man 2. People trying to spin off every character rather than just kind of making a single film.
Even the MCU made that mistake with one film, in my opinion, Iron Man 2, which is like widely considered one of their worst films. But they learned from that. They did that with Iron Man 2, trying to set up a lot of future films. They're like, oh yeah, people didn't like the heavy-handed setup. They liked the subtle Nick Fury cameo at the end type of setup.
Yeah, and even that, I would argue that, while some of the more references in Iron Man 2 are more heavy-handed, I would still take Iron Man 2 over most of... And this isn't even just as a Marvel fan, just like as a film, I think Iron Man 2 is better than most of the DCEU movies.
Yeah, without a doubt. I agree with that, yeah. But anyway, let's get on to what is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now that we got to see it, the director's cut, the 4-hour-long director's cut.
Well, the first thing I want to say about it is I do kind of push back on this idea that, like, some fans kind of have this fictional notion that, Justice League 1 was, like, completely, Justice League, as people call it. It was nothing like Zack Snyder's vision. Like, it was totally divorced from anything, and he has no bearing on it. And while, yes, obviously due to very tragic circumstances, he had to step away, and Zack, his film was heavily changed, as we see from this version. But it's not like it's unrecognizable. It's not like a lot of the choices, a lot of the ideas, and the visuals were exactly as they were.
Yeah, that's definitely something I noticed as well. I was expecting a completely different film, but it had the same plot. Like, the plot was exactly the same. Now there was a lot more in Zack Snyder's version, and there was a lot more in it. there was differences, but it's still, the plot was virtually identical.
Yeah. I think my two biggest praises of the Snyder Cut were basically Cyborg. I think everything that Joss Whedon cut out of Justice League relating to Cyborg really did the film a disservice, because Cyborg kind of holds the movie together with his story and being a sympathetic character, and you know, we kind of see everything through his eyes, and like his, like really the Snyder Cut, it feels like it is Cyborg's movie. Like him coming to terms with what happened to him and forgiving his father is like the entire arc of the movie. And when you take that out, it's just oh, I'm here too. You should probably move.
See, what I feel about that is I definitely feel, I agree that he had no arc in the original cut. He had a very significant arc in the Zack Snyder cut. I still just didn't particularly care for the character though. Like, one, I'm already biased to begin with because I don't feel Cyborg belongs in this movie. Like, I don't like it's a whole direction in DC in general to push Cyborg as a member of the Justice League. To me, he's a Teen Titan. Like, like that's where he belongs. He doesn't belong in the Justice League. So right off the bat, I would have, if I was making a movie, he would not be in there. There's tons of other characters you could have gone with. But also, I just like he definitely has a clear arc, but I don't know. I just found him so bored. Like everything, he's so depressed. I felt the movie. Found him. I found him to be kind of a boring character. Like, say, at least he got something to do, which unlike in the original, he was just there.
Yeah.
I still just didn't particularly care for him. And I'm not also a fan of the visuals with him either. Like, he has that light on his forehead. I don't know. Like, he already has the glowing red eye. The light on his forehead seems so redundant in my opinion. Also, he has weird body proportions. Like, the way his torso is. I find it weird, and it's just so heavy CGI, not particularly good CGI. That's that. He definitely had a lot to do. He definitely had an arc in this film, unlike in the original. I just still didn't particularly care for him. But that's just my opinion. It's undeniable, though, that he had an actual arc in this film, which is that's better than what you could say about the original.
I'll agree with you that I don't really care for his weird angular body. I don't like the look of the character, but I think that's just a Zack Snyder thing. All of his like alien technology kind of looks like that, and so it was very much in line with everything else. But I didn't feel like it worked. He didn't feel like a cyborg so much as he felt like a transformer. I also just couldn't get over the scene where at one point the character is like going into the internet, like he's like hacking an ATM, and he like moves his hand apart to like make money grow in like just a very literal sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just found that funny. But no, I do actually think, at least for me, the character's arc worked. I at least felt emotion for him. He was the only character in the whole film where I felt anything. Like, I felt any type of emotion. Like, I guess that's not actually true. I did like the stuff with Henry Cavill and Amy Adams, but we'll get to that later. But he was, to me, the father asking for forgiveness. That worked for me. And I also think that plays into the second thing I liked about the film, which was I actually understood the plot. I literally, when I watched the first movie, I was falling asleep. Like, I had no idea, like, all right, I guess we're going to resurrect Superman because mother boxes are weird and electricity is weird, and we're just going to throw everything in and it works. Like, the whole idea that the mother boxes are, like, built to resurrect things and reshape matter and stuff, that's an important plot point that I don't know why they cut that out of the movie. So I actually followed the whole movie, so I liked that. And I liked that Superman didn't single-handedly do everything, and the other Justice League members.
He kinda still did.
I mean, he was a major player. Like, they do a good job at explaining why he's the key, why he's the most powerful member of the Justice League. But literally in the original cut, the rest of the Justice League is like, all right, we're gonna go save this like Scandinavian family while you do everything else.
But yeah. So now, I want to talk about one of the biggest, like, I guess you could call it controversy, the 4-hour length. Now, in his defense, I will say, it does not feel like 4 hours watching it. I will give it that. However, it is still way too long. Like because there was just so many scenes where nothing happens, and there are dozens but there's a bunch of scenes that were redundant. Like they should. What's the bad guy's name? Not Darkseid. Steppenwolf.
Mm-hmm.
They had him, call them like 3 or 4 times. It's like,
yeah,
that's fine for 1 or 2 scenes, but they just like there was no need to do 3 or I can't remember if it was 3 or 4, but whatever the number was, there were way too many of it.
There was 2 phone calls with the weird melty phone that.
No, there was at least 3, I thought.
Well, there was 3, but there was 2 that were identical. Like two of the calls were literally the same information. Like, I'm close to finding the mother boxes. Good, keep searching. I'll have my revenge. And I'm like, you just said that. You already made that phone call. And so I think that was like just 2 alternate takes that just should not have both been used.
Yeah, and I know this is considered Zack Snyder style, but it really dragged out the movie. One, the overuse of slow motion. Now there was times when the slow motion definitely worked, like when we first meet Flash.
Yep.
But then there's other times when you just do it again, you just overuse slow motion. And then there's that other thing, he just does so many lingering shots, like unnecessary pans, like a lot of it felt like he was trying to pad the running time. And it's like, why are you trying to pad the running time on a 4-hour movie?
Yeah.
Like the one scene where Aquaman is going into the ocean, they just sing to him. The one smells his sweater, like, what are you even doing here? There was a lot of pointless scenes like that.
I did find that scene rather unnecessary. I don't know why they left that in. So there was an idea initially that this film would be released as a mini-series. And I actually like that idea a lot. I feel like initially I was like, oh, well, it's silly. Just release it as a movie. It was filmed as a movie. Release it as a movie. But the way it was like with these chapters and everything, I actually want to see a version where you take Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, the extended edition or whatever, the director's cut of that, and the Snyder cut. I think you could edit that into basically a Watchmen-style origin of the Justice League mini-series, like a 10-episode mini-series. And I actually think that would work pretty well. So that was my only criticism with that. Like, I didn't mind the length didn't weigh on me. I wasn't like, oh my goodness, like when will this movie end? Like I definitely felt the length. I think they could have definitely trimmed it down to a cool 3 hours if they had gotten rid of some of the slow-mo and things like that. But I didn't feel the length was overbearing.
See, the problem with making this into a miniseries might be is that, like, the first hour I found the first hour to be kind of a snooze fest. So it would be if you break it down into a miniseries, the parts would be so uneven. Like I said, I felt like the first hour of the film especially like the first hour should only been half an hour, and it was just kind of boring. Mm-hmm. And the other thing, the guy actually goes to length. He is again. This is I know Zack Snyder style, but his obsession with these dream sequences.
Yeah.
The nightmare cut at the end, I was cringing. I enjoyed most of the movie to that point, but at that point I'm just like, oh my god, when is gonna end? Like, I was cringing at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm also not. It didn't help that I'm just really not a fan of Jared Leto's Joker, like, at all. It's just
so terrible.
It's just upsetting to me. So yeah, I dislike the dream sequences, especially now that we know they're not heading anywhere. I did hear an interesting, like, fan theory that, like, the original cut of the film was like the alternate reality that led to the nightmare, and the Snyder cut is like the good ending. But it doesn't really fit with the fact that it's put after the regular film. So yeah, I think you could cut out the dream sequences, or at least it maybe could have been redeemed if it was leading to an Injustice movie. But now, especially now that we know it's not.
Or at the very least, cut it down. But it was just, like, it was so like, the final thing was just so dragged out. So unnecessary long.
Yeah.
That was just cringe. And there was this, like, it was like a lot of, him, I guess, in claims, I'm setting up other movies, but things that just went nowhere. Like, Martian Manhunter being in that film for absolutely no reason. I still don't get what he was trying to accomplish by disguising himself as Martha. That whole scene, I'm just like, wait, what was the point of that?
Well, I think it had something to do with, like, getting Lois Lane to be, like, active again, because she was the key to, like, unlocking Superman, but it was very unclear. And I agree, he was the super unnecessary character, and especially it was just so awkward the way he just, like, shows up at Bruce Wayne's house and is like, "Hi, I'm Martian Manhunter. Allow me to introduce myself." And Batman's just like, "Okay, cool."
Apparently, though, he actually Snyder actually wanted to do that with Green Lantern instead of Martian Manhunter in that final scene, but they're like, no. And it's like, fine, I'll do Martian Manhunter.
But it's like at that. Either way, you didn't include Green Lantern at all in the rest of the movie, so both of those scenes sound incredibly pointless.
Yeah, it's like, where were you when we needed you 10 minutes ago? Like, you're showing up now? It was just, it was just so pointless. And really, like I said, Martian Manhunter is a character I would have much preferred to see as a main character in the film over someone like Cyborg. But it's like, you're just going to do him for nothing?
I actually thought the first time that I watched the Snyder Cut, I thought briefly that there was no Martha Kent, and that, like, Superman's mom had just been Martian Manhunter the entire time, which would have been way funnier than what actually happened.
Yeah. And now I just had a thought that I forgot. So Dark Side. I felt it was actually kind of. I didn't like how he appeared in that flashback, because first of all, we shouldn't have seen him to the very end of the movie, in my opinion. So that big reveal is better. But also, I didn't just like the way he acted in that flashback. Like, he's not wearing a shirt. He's fighting like a brute. Like, that's not Darkseid. Like, Darkseid is like supposed to be this very classy villain. Like he fights with his hair behind his back, like fighting shirtless, and just the style he was fighting in that flashback, like that just felt very out of character for him.
Right. I didn't.
And I was.
Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
No, finish your thought.
Well, I also didn't like how the Justice League killed Steppenwolf. I thought it would have been much cooler if they sent him back through the portal injured, and Darkseid was just like, "You failed me for the last time," and vaporized it. Like
I
I felt that would be more effective. Like, just a more elegant way to reveal Darkseid to the audience, and not showing us him as this brute, which is not what the character was in the comics, and that's what makes Darkseid so interesting is his elegance.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It would have been more fitting way for him to go out if the Justice League had sent him back alive, and it was a failed me for the last time situation. I didn't mind him in general being in the flashback. I do think that it was like, oh, it was trying to show you how hopeless and like, oh, once Darkseid shows up, like you're all doomed, and like it took.
But are you? They defeated him.
Right, but it took like an army of gods basically last time to repel him. I do think my biggest problem with the flashback sequence is the introduction of the anti-life equation. It's like, first of all, Zack Snyder, pick a MacGuffin. Either do the boxes or do the anti-life equation. You can't have both. Was it just a sheer coincidence that the Earth happened to have the anti-life equation on it?
Yeah.
And then how did they forget? Like
it made no sense.
His whole life he spent looking for the anti-life equation. He finally finds it, like, oh my goodness, and then he forgets where he put it.
But not only did he forget where he put it, he left the mother boxes there. They find the mother boxes and they're like, they don't immediately, oh yeah, we found the mother boxes, so that means the anti-life equation is here. No, first, it takes them all that time, like, oh wait, this is also that planet. Wait, really? The same planet from before is still the same planet from before? It's like, that made no sense to me.
Yeah.
Nothing in that made sense. He lost the planet, and then left his stuff there, but then was surprised when his stuff was found on the same planet.
Exactly. No,
none of that made sense.
None of that made sense. I just wish they had just either gone with just the mother boxes or just the anti-life equation.
Yeah, it's like...
But,
yeah, this was so stupid.
But like I said, I didn't mind the flashback conceptually. Like, I thought it was really cool visuals. I loved seeing like the Green Lanterns and the old gods teaming up. I loved seeing like Ares was there and he was fighting,
No, it was a cool to watch scene. I just felt it robbed us of what would have been a much better introduction to Darkseid if we didn't see him till the end of the film, where Steppenwolf goes in there injured and we see him for the first time and he's like, You're useless to me or something, and vaporizes him.
Yeah.
Like, I would have much preferred that Darkseid wasn't there in person for that scene, and it was just his army there.
Yeah, it was all...
They could have saved the reveal.
Yeah, especially if that was the first time we ever saw his Omega beams. Like, I didn't like that we saw his Omega beams used in that, like the nightmare sequence where he kills the entire Justice League.
Well, which at least during that nightmare sequence, if I remember correctly, you could only barely see him.
Mm-hmm.
Am I remember that correctly? Right?
Yeah, I think
kind of like
he was slightly obscured, yeah, and by like smoke and stuff.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm fine with him having that. Like, oh, here's an obscure. Like, you can kind of see him appearance, but now here's where but you'll actually get to see a good look of him until the very end.
Yeah.
I just felt that would be just a much better scene, seeing him for the first time.
No, I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, as much as improved, Steppenwolf is still a generic bad guy. Like,
yeah,
I mean, he wants redemption. Nah, it's really just generic though. he's no more thought out in this version than in the original.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought he looked less silly. Like, I liked his appearance slightly more. But, yeah, I didn't find him particularly compelling. Like I said, he was definitely better. I definitely thought this was an improvement. But, yeah, it still was just sort of a generic bad guy. I don't know. I thought it was an odd choice to make him the main villain of the first Justice League. I don't know. In terms of another character I thought wasn't really that much better was the Flash. I thought he was slightly improved by the ending, which I thought was very cool, how he like uses his powers in the climax to turn back time. I liked his, speed powers, how they were visualized. But he's still just the most annoying human being. And, like, I get it. I think they were trying to, like, basically have it so, like, oh, he thinks so fast that, like, his mouth can't keep up with his brain, which is why he's, like, such a clumsy person. But I don't know. It just didn't work for me. I found him... Yeah, I'm happy they cut out the brunch. Whoa, what's brunch? I don't understand brunch. But... I don't know. They just replaced it with him feeding hot dogs to animals.
Yeah, it was, and yeah, he was okay. I didn't particularly care for him one way or the other in either version.
Yeah.
And I mean, the time travel was nice, but it was also obvious. It was like you see when he brings back Superman, he revert time, just by a little bit. So when they're about to lose, I'm like, oh, he's gonna have to revert time here.
Yeah. No, it was definitely very telegraphed, but like I said, I didn't mind. I felt like it gave the character like a purpose. Really, to me, the highlight of the film was just Superman, which is unfortunate because we don't get that much of him. But I liked the black suit. I liked.
No, I do not like the black suit because it was done for no reason. Like I would be fine him wearing the black suit for the final battle. Then when they show him unbuttoned, he's back in the blue suit.
I agree with that. I was very annoyed that I'm like, it was cool to see him like resurrect and he's in the black suit and like. But then, when you do the classic scene, have him be in his regular Superman outfit again.
And then, it especially annoyed me, though. They had him for the black suit in that, but then for the nightmare sequence, they had him back in the blue suit. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah. No, I agree.
And also, the classic black suit doesn't have a cape. Like, if you want to do the black suit, do it right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, that part didn't bother me, but yeah, I agree that they should have had him back in the classic suit at the end.
Yeah, it really just seemed like something they did just to do, which I feel like a lot of that movie did just to do. See,
I mean, speaking of did just to do, the bat tank at the end. From The Dark Knight Returns. It's just like, yep, he's got a bat tank now. Why? I don't know.
Yeah. See, it's funny. When you look at the first cut of Justice League, that's a classic example of, too much studio interference. When you look at the Zack Snyder's Justice League, you look at like, that could have used some studio interference.
Right. Well, that's why, most films are a happy medium. Like, most films do have studio notes, but, yeah, I think it was sort of the two extremes, there's a Goldilocks in the middle of it, where, if you let Zack Snyder just do anything he wants, he'll make Sucker Punch. But if you give him too many studio notes, then, he'll make Batman vs. Superman or the original Justice League.
Yeah, exactly. So, it definitely would have done better with some studio interference, because like they wouldn't have let it be 4 hours long. They would have made the necessary cuts. Like I said, because there's just so much, like, except a lot of it just felt like he's trying to pad the runtime. I'm like, why are you trying? I just made no sense to me. Padding the runtime in a 4-hour movie.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's unfortunate because I just really feel like Zack Snyder was just a poor fit for this entire universe.
Without a doubt.
Like, I actually don't dislike Zack Snyder as much as you do. I mean, like, I have heard that he's quite arrogant, but in terms of the films he makes, like, I like Watchmen. I thought he was a good fit for Watchmen, especially the director's cut. But this, I just felt like he was just completely in the wrong solar system to make this movie. Which is why
these characters aren't dark, moody characters. Batman is to a degree, but outside of him, these are supposed to be happy, upbeat characters.
Right, well, that's the thing. It's like Batman is the brooding character, which is why he's such a juxtaposition to the other characters. Like, the reason that Batman and Superman are always, like, foils for each other is because, like, Batman is, like, represents, like, the darkest part of humanity, whereas, like, Superman represents the hope.
But instead, in this version, they both represent, like, darkness to a degree. And it's like,
yeah, I felt like
they don't have that balance.
I felt like everybody on this team was Batman.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think part of it came from the initial hesitation. There were some talks of Man of Steel being a continuation of The Dark Knight Returns or The Dark Knight Rises. So I think there was some initial uncertainty of where this universe was going, and which I'm glad they didn't do that. But yeah, I don't dislike Zack Snyder, and Man of Steel, if it wasn't a Superman movie, would be like one of my favorite movies. But I just feel like he's not a good fit for these characters. So I'm glad that they're taking it a different direction. I mean, Shazam is my favorite DC movie by a wide margin, and
it feels like a Marvel movie.
Right, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way.
No, that's how superhero movies should feel. Fun.
It's just a fun movie. I felt like it did justice to the character. Yeah, it was just great.
See, the Dark Knight trilogy was a great trilogy. But it was like the worst thing to happen for the future of Warner Brothers, of DC, because they didn't realize why the Dark Knight worked.
Right.
They're like, oh, well, people want these dark, gritty stuff. And it's like, no, it worked because you have a dark and gritty main character in Batman, and it was also worked because it was something different. But you can't just make everything dark and gritty. Well, like, it doesn't always work. And like I said, Dark Knight Trilogy, great movie, great trilogy. Ruined is the main reason why the DCEU didn't work, because they tried to be like it.
Yeah, I agree. I wish, like, I'm fine with serious superhero movies, and there is a way to do that and do it well. Like, I think Wonder Woman is a great example of a movie that strikes a good balance. It is serious. It's a serious movie, but
The Winter Soldier.
Right, so The Winter Soldier, right? It's like, it's a serious movie, but it is also bright and fun, and it feels like a comic book story. Because comic books can be dark, but in a very specific way. It's not just everything desaturated. That's what kills me. Comic books, when you think of comic books, the first thing you think of is color, right? Color. Alex Ross paintings, like watercolor covers, like brilliant bright reds and greens, and Zack Snyder just desaturates everything.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't work.
But like I said, overall, I can't complain too much. I am happy the Snyder Cut was released. I do think it is a better movie. Like, if I had to rate the original Justice League, I would give it like a 4. I think this, this definitely is a watchable movie. And if it was even just like maybe 40 minutes shorter, I would say it's like a 7 or an 8. Like, it's just a little bit too long, and it still has the baggage from the previous movies. But as a standalone work, it works. It's an actual movie.
Yeah, it works, but and it's been said before, but I mean, you gave him everything. You gave him all the length he wanted. You gave him complete control. You gave him millions of dollars for reshoots, and the best he could measure it. Well, it works. Like, I would say, it's like a 6. Or like you wanted to give it a letter grade, it's a D+. Hey, you didn't fail this time, but you're giving all this stuff, giving some of the best fictional characters in history. You give it millions of dollars, complete control, and the best you can do is, well, I didn't fail. I feel that says a lot.
Yeah, I think, it was sort of a lost cause in the sense that, really, I feel similarly to Zack Snyder's Justice League as I do to Rise of Skywalker, although I like Rise of Skywalker a lot more. But it's the same idea that there's only so much you can do. Like, you have this, you have a lot of momentum, and you can't just like suddenly change directions. So I think I do have a little bit of sympathy for the fact that, yes, he was given millions of dollars and he did reshoot some scenes, but like, this is a director's cut more so than a different movie.
Yes, but to be fair, he had to deal with the momentum that he caused.
Right. So, but
yes, he had a lot of bad momentum in the wrong direction, but that was because he caused all that momentum.
Right, but I would say that's why I penalize, I point the finger much more sternly at Batman v Superman. I think that's the much more misguided movie that really tanked the universe more so than Justice League. Like, Justice League was the explosion, the fallout that came from it. But by the time we had Batman v Superman and we did the Death of Superman story so early, like, you were already there. You were already dealing with a lot.
Mm-hmm. Alright. I don't want to go as long as Zack Snyder does, so I think now is probably a good place to cut it. What do you think?
I agree. I don't want to be too negative, so I'll just say that I thought this movie was an improvement. If you didn't like the original, I'll say if you didn't like Batman vs Superman, you will not like this movie. But if you liked Batman vs Superman but didn't like Justice League, you will be thrilled. And I don't want to restore the Snyderverse, but I'm happy they #release the Snyder Cut so we can all move on with our lives.
And cue the restore the Snyderverse comments. I'm waiting on you, trolls. Alright, this has been Off Topic with Mike and JD. I think I'm JD.
And I'm Mike.